Here I am. I want to read another letter from the Seminole War. Now, being June, one thing that I think of is the Great Escape in 1837. Uh, General Jesup had negotiated the capitulation with the Seminoles and Micanopy at Fort Dade early in the year, and he convinces the Seminoles to start congregating at Fort Brooke, which they do. And in June 2nd, 1837, uh, the Seminoles panic and flee. Now, there's various reasons given. One is that the slave catchers came and created a panic among the Seminoles, or a measles outbreak made the Seminoles afraid that smallpox was breaking out among the population. Another reason says that Abiaka and Osceola showed up and forced the people to leave. But anyway, here's Jessup's letter on it. It's not quite clear exactly what the reason is, and you can believe what you want, but I was looking for letters on the subject, so I came across this on fold 3. And let me share a screen here. So this is from Adjutant Letters Received in 1837. J117, J for Jesup, of course. And this is in a long document that is General Jesup's correspondence for the month of June 1837. On page 24, well, there's a short letter here in the middle. Lieutenant Linnard is writing to Mr. Forrester at St. Mark's. Mr. Forrester was a slave owner, and I think he was in St. Augustine, but he had several court cases against the Army for trying to retrieve his slaves over the next few years. And Lieutenant Linnard writes an interesting letter from Tampa Bay, June 6, 1837. Sir, your letter of the 20th ultimo has been received and is in reply. And in reply, I have to state that no more of your negroes have been brought in, and it is not probable that the Indians will surrender any more of the blacks in their possession. So Mr. Forrester is seeking his slaves, and he will not get them. Later on, he'll be attempting to uh, have a slave apprehended, a former slave who was his young man who took up with Wildcat or Kawakachi and ran with him, which was quite an interesting case. And say pretty much he'll want the government to compensate him and pay him back, because it's believed that after the former slaves taste their freedom, then they're no longer any good for servitude. So that's an interesting short letter. And then underneath, it's a letter from General Jesup to Walker Armistead. Tampa Bay, June 6, 1837. Jesup writes to Armistead, General, the Seminole camp broke up on, the night of the 2nd instant. An armed party surprised and carried off Micanopy, Jumper, and Cloud about 7 o'clock in the evening. And by 10 o'clock, I understand the whole had left. So it's about 700 in the encampment, 700 people, including women and children. Micanopy sent word to me by a Negro that he was forced off, but that he would abide by the treaty, and whatsoever others might do, he would never raise his band against the white man. I believe he is sincere, but he has no influence over his people, and it would be the extreme of folly to trust him or any of the chiefs again. The war must recommence, and it must be a war of extermination. No other course will rid the country of the Indians. As far as the Negroes, they should be hung up as they are taken. Abraham and Juan, guess for John, of course, I don't know if that's Tomoka John or not, are with us. Uh, the former came in on the 31st of May and would not go out again, though urged by the Indians to do so. He is true, I believe. The best disposition must be made of the troops and the security of the frontier. And if the government persevere in the scheme of immigration, scheme is a good word for it, immediate measures must be taken to recommence active operations by the 1st of October. All our depots may be filled in the latter part of September. Do not, General, permit the troops to remain on the St. John's above Piccolata so long as to endanger their health. Our object must now be limited to covering the frontier and preserving as far as possible the health of the men. I regret to hear of your indisposition and hope that you are better. From signed General Jesup to Brigadier General Walker Armistead, commanding 1st Division, Army of the South, St. Augustine, Florida. So Armistead's commanding from St. Augustine, troops in that area of the country. Piccolata turned out to be very deadly for the men in the sickly season of the summer. But anyway, that's pretty interesting. Jesup's tempers quite up there. And he says, hang any of the blacks that surrender themselves. And this is a war extermination. A little stronger language than Way will use, but later on he'll do whatever he can to remove the Indians from the territory and sending their black allies or the black Seminoles with them and to Oklahoma as without delay and without interference. So anyway, that's interesting. And there's another letter after that. Let me see about that. That's kind of interesting. I'll read this next one here. It's from Jesup to Colonel, I think it's Harvey Brown, who's commanding the Creek Volunteers in St. Augustine. This was the Creek Regiment that was commanded by David Moniac, who was killed at the Battle of Wahoo Swamp. It says, Colonel, you your presence is necessary here to aid in the arranging the business of the Creek Regiment. Reference is frequently made to you, and if you would hear, and if you were here, you could settle difficulties or silence complaints, which will continue to annoy me until you arrive. Jim Boy seems to be dissatisfied and speaks of often of claims which he says you are acquainted with. An order will be issued today directing you to repair to this post. The Seminoles have deceived us and dispersed. They have been tampered with, and the negroes have been frightened, and but few could at any time be gotten into camp. Unless immigration be it abandoned, we shall have another winter of war, if not more. Signed, General Jesup to Lieutenant Colonel Brown, Creek Volunteers in St. Augustine. So I meant to read one letter and ended up reading three. So anyway, I think I'll stop for now. And I hope you enjoyed that.